is a difficult and often frightening place, is it not? So what is it that sustains us out there in the wilderness? How do we cope? From where does our strength come? We sometimes believe that pure optimism is the key to making it through the wilderness. And there's no question that optimism can be powerful. But is optimism, our hope and confidence in the future, enough? Well, there was once a remarkable optimist who one day fell off of a skyscraper. As he passed the 12th floor, horrified onlookers heard him shout, "So far, so good." Optimism is great, but is it enough? We're about the two hunters who heard about a bounty offered for the hides of wolves that were decimating the farmer's livestock. They headed out to the wide open spaces to shoot some wolves and make themselves rich. They had just fallen asleep out under the stars when a noise woke one of them. In the reflection of that campfire, he saw the eyes of 25 wolves with their teeth gleaming. He shook his friend and whispered hoarsely, wake up, we're rich." Optimism is great, but is it enough? No, the optimism of our falling friend by itself is no match for the gravitational pull of the earth, nor is the optimism of our hunted hunter by itself a match for the wild beasts of the wilderness. Sometimes more is needed. It's that something more that we'll focus on this fifth sermon in the series of the Wilderness Times. In the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1, verse 13, we find that when Jesus was out in the wilderness, he was with the wild beasts. But then Mark says there was something more in the wilderness with him. He says, and the angels waited on him. Now these days it seems like almost anyone can tell you what an angel looks like. You know, the halo around the head, the wings from the back, flowing robes, perhaps even a harp in hand. But looking through the Bible, it doesn't seem concerned about such descriptions. Why? Perhaps it's because you don't experience angels like the ones that we see in paintings or that adorn our Christmas ornaments. In every instance, the Bible mentions angels simply for what they do, and not for what they look like. The Hebrew word malach and the Greek word angelos both mean messenger. Angels are messengers of hope when God's message of hope is most needed. They are expressions of the inexpressible, the way we talk about God being present and bringing hope. Think of the role of angels in the Bible. They usually appear at the low points in the lives of those who receive their message. They delivered their message in the wilderness times. Abraham and Sarah, unknowingly, they entertained 3 angels who gave them the message of hope that they would actually have a son. Jacob wrestled all night with an angel as he struggled with God and with himself about his life and the fear he had of facing his estranged twin brother. An angel brought hope and strength to Elijah when he sat down under a broom tree, just wanting God to take his life. And an angel met the grieving women at Jesus' tomb and proclaimed the great message of hope. He's not here. He's risen, just as he said. These were terribly low times in these individuals' lives. These were times when God seemed far away and when the next moment seemed uncertain. They were times when both their need and their weakness to do anything about their needs were very important and apparent. It was precisely in that moment of need, in that moment of weakness, that the messengers of God delivered their messages. And this is the good news that Paul discovered and recounted in our reading from 2 Corinthians. Paul was tormented by some excruciating malady that he called a thorn in the flesh. When he prayed repeatedly for this awful thorn in the flesh to be removed, he received this answer from the Lord: "My grace is sufficient for you, for power is made perfect in weakness." The Lord offered Paul some comfort in his wilderness time. So what is it that brings you comfort? So oftentimes we think of food as comfort food. Food that reminds you of the growing up years when mom filled the house with the fragrance of bacon. For others, we find comfort in many things. Anything from roast beef with potatoes smothered in gravy, to a warm blanket on a cold day, or a hug from a loved one with strong, tender arms. Comfort can come when timely words are shared that speak to your situation. The word comfort comes from Latin and is actually two words: com fortis. Translated literally, it means with strength. To comfort, then, is to give strength. God's intention in giving comfort to his people is to give them strength to do what needs to be done. When that strength is given, the sorrow of our shattered hearts is not as heavy, and we can go on. In our times of need and our times of weakness, God's message of hope and comfort is spoken. Most often in a language too deep for words and too profound to voice. In the times of greatest need, God's message of hope comes through when the soul is open to receive it. And sometimes, even when the soul is not open to receive it. That is the good news of comfort in the wilderness. We are not alone in the wilderness. We have available to us God's sustenance and strength. And we can leave the wilderness stronger people through God working in our lives. King David, he experienced many wilderness times in his life, and he shared them with us through his writings in the many Psalms. One of the best known Psalms shows that God truly is our comforter. You know it. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He takes me to lush pastures. He leads me to refreshing waters. He restores my strength. He leads me down the right paths for the sake of his reputation. Even when I must walk through the darkest valley, I fear no danger. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff reassure me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the wilderness, we are comforted not by mere optimism, but by hope. The hope that comes from knowing we are not alone. The hope that comes from knowing that the wilderness is not all there is. And the hope that comes from knowing that when our strength is gone, God's strength is sufficient. Emily Dickinson She was struggling to express the inexpressible, and she wrote, "Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul." Hope is not a thing that flies serenely above the storms, untouched by the demands and challenges that we face. Rather, the power of hope lies in its presence in our everyday lives. It perches in our soul. Hope stays within us, singing its song in the bleakest wilderness. The good news is that we are not alone in our wilderness journey. Jesus spent his own time out in the wilderness. He understands what it is that we face. Jesus was out with the wild beasts, and then the angels come to wait on him. Even Jesus was not left totally alone in his difficult time. During our wilderness time, God does send angels to lift us up. Perhaps even you have been an angel to someone who is struggling through a barren and lonely wilderness. Think about that. If angels are simply messengers, can it be that most of the angels we meet today are simply our fellow human beings coming to us in our time of need? Think of your darkest wilderness experience. Were there people who were God's messengers of hope for you? For us to become a ministering angel to help a brother or sister in the wilderness, allowing them to experience the comforting presence of God, that is one of the most beautiful ministries that God gives any one of us. Even in the worst wilderness imaginable, God calls us to be persons through whom the light and life and love of God flow into a wilderness world. John Henry Jowett once said, "God does not comfort us to make us comfortable, but to make us comforters." So go out to be God's agents of comfort in this world. Amen.